good one over here.
My name is Virzi. I'm a musician and field recording artist working at Stanford University. Today, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my practice in the field of sound ecology, where sound is used to understand the natural world. So this is a recording from Mount Diablo here in the Bay Area. This is one of an evening chorus that features pretty heavily the Redwinged Blackbird, which is a migratory bird that basically comes in and causes a lot of trouble for the other species. But they have a really beautiful song, and in particular when they're singing all together, you get these really interesting, complex, polyrhythmic effects. So let's take a listen. So let's take a closer look at this recording from a spectrogram view. A spectrogram is essentially a visual representation of a waveform that is a bit more complex and shows more of the frequency domain than you would normally see in a simple waveform that looks more like this. So as you can see, when we look at the spectrogram, a lot more details of the sound come out, and we can actually take a very close look to see how a certain sound in a natural soundscape would appear visually. Let's have a listen. So one thing that you'll notice is that on a spectrogram, the darker the color is, the more present the sound is. And this usually represents something like, well, in this case, how close is the bird? So if you look at this particular excerpt here, you'll see that in this one spot, we have a very dark waveform. That means that the signal is stronger at this particular moment, and it means in this case that the bird is much closer. So let's listen just to this small little chunk once again, and keep an eye out for this particular moment where the Redwinged Blackbird gets very close. So now that we have an understanding of how a spectrogram might work, let's take a closer look at the same recording from earlier, and let's see if we can identify the different sorts of species that are contained within the same soundscape. So looking at this now, you might see several things. First of all, this particular moment here, this particular sort of shape, is of the Redwinged Blackbird that we looked at beforehand. However, if we zoom a little bit further back, we can see that there are other horizontal bands going on at the same time. We can see just below that another band that continues down like this, and another one that's present down here. Now, these are representations of different species that actually have adapted their behavior to sing at different frequency niches. This is a way of coordinating different types of behavior between species as well as within the same type of species. So once again, we have the Redwinged Blackbird just over here, and we can actually isolate out in this software, Isotope RX, just the songs of the blackbirds. Versus, if we shift to a lower frequency niche, the birds are completely gone. Instead, we have the upper partials of what you will now see are some Sierran tree frogs. So the way that the birds and the frogs are able to coordinate with each other is that essentially, by operating in different frequency niches, they don't compete for the same acoustic space.